All right. So welcome back to Benefits of Bipolar. Another interview here this week. I'm trying to keep on the once every 2 week thing, but Brandon here probably understands that that can get tough at times. But I'm paced this time. So number two, 2 for 2. I'm going to take that. Kind of mentioned it already. This is Brandon or B Russ. In my head, that's actually how I see him. So that's where I was trying to got confused there at the beginning. B Russ is what I see him. He's at the real B Russ on everything, I believe.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. This guy's got great content on Instagram. He's a must follow for any kind of mental illness, bipolar, depression topics, medication, anxiety, any of that. Must follow. The reason I wanted to have him on here is I really started on Instagram following B Russ. Like he's one of the OGs that I started following. And I was kind of laughing to myself and with him earlier before we started recording here. He's like the only dude that I really can think of, or one of a few that I can think of that I started following and still do. And that's really relatable for me. And I remember thinking that whatever 6 months ago, whenever I had started following you, I was like, dang, this guy's actually relatable. You're a
Yeah.
real person. You're obviously into hip hop and rap music, and some of that came out, but just your honesty is really what hit me. And so when I started, I was like, I kind of want to be like this guy if I can in some ways. Truly, truly, truly. I want you to know that because, and your stuff is so much better produced than mine. So if you want more produced content than mine, go see his. It's so much
No.
better done. He's got different views, and you can tell it's written and everything. And I'm like a couple takes trying to just hit it in one because I don't know how to do any of that. So, but no, seriously, his hip hop is also really good. You can tell it's from the heart. I've listened to it. I told my girlfriend earlier today. She's like, "Oh, he makes music too." I was like, "Yeah, yeah." She's like, "Is it good?" Actually, yes. And I'm not just saying that because she knows I can't lie for shit. So
Yeah.
it is really good. Go check it out. I believe it's on Apple Music.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Spotify, all of that.
Spotify, all
Yeah.
that stuff. You know where to find it.
Yeah.
YouTube channels out there too. So just check this guy out everywhere you can. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Now, with that being said, that's enough out of me, I believe, to start with.
Yeah.
Where I think I want to start is just exactly that, though. We're two men on, well, Zoom, but on my YouTube channel,
Right.
talking about mental illness, mental health, but more specifically, bipolar disorder.
Mhm.
For me, this process was really, really hard at the beginning, sharing really with anybody, let
Mhm.
alone with the public, because I was raised in a very conservative house, a very, very religious house, a little town in Wisconsin, and just people kind of, it was like Pleasantville. Have you ever seen that
Yeah.
type of, it's
Yeah.
white, perfect, everybody's happy, and everything is good, right? So I mean, coming back there from college, and I was not diagnosed, I was just a wrecking ball and didn't fit in, right? So
Yeah.
it took a really long time for me to be able to divulge,
Mm,
and really took a long time then for me to get diagnosed as a result of that and all of
mm.
those things. What was your childhood like in that? And I don't want to, get too prying
Yeah.
about it, but were you raised in a similar manner as a man? Did those have similar effects on you as you came into adulthood and manhood and reaching out and getting help?
Yeah. I think the way that I was raised, my mother was very like empathetic just in general, you know what I mean, when it came to just feelings and stuff like that. And my parents were divorced, but I primarily grew up with my mom. And so I learned a lot of what I would call these like, being able to like identify with emotions and treating people nicely, just all of these different things. But when it came to my father, it's very just typical of like a lot of like common experiences, I would say, like in the Black community, where it's like, generations. I come from generations of men who were very like emotionally unavailable, or that may be overwhelmed with emotion, but it's like that's not something that we talk about, or that's not something that we show, because whatever we go through like stays in this house. And then obviously, like it's funny you mentioned like religion. That was a part of it too, I believe, where it's like, you know, I don't really think I don't think like my grandparents really understood mental illness. And I feel like, they came from a generation as well of kind of like being able to just pray things away and, stuff like that. But I definitely feel like I feel like all of that affected how I communicated emotions at a certain point. My father and I are doing a lot better now with our relationship, but there was a time where before I was diagnosed, I just knew I was depressed, but it was just so much going on. Like life was complicated. And I had a really hard time opening up to him. And I feel like growing up, it was like I was always just looking for that like male presence like in my life that where I could just be myself and I wasn't criticized for feeling this way. I wasn't criticized for not being athletic because I'm tall and I'm just supposed to play basketball, like, you know what I mean? Stuff like that. So
Sure.
yeah, it definitely had an effect, but I feel like the older I've gotten, the more I've really come to believe that despite all of those things that I learned growing up, like this is really like the way to go, man. Like I feel like there's a lot of strength in vulnerability, and I feel like some people don't understand that, but it's like it's liberating. It's like you connect with more people on like a deeper level in that way. So yeah, that's kind of like where I'm at with it now.
Nice. It sounds like a very healthy place to be at.
Yeah.
And I mean, and what interested me when you said that is you said that because you were mostly raised by your mother, I think you said that you were very in touch, or I forget your wording. I'm sorry, I should have, but
Oh no, that's all good.
that you knew almost how to share your emotions. You knew
Mhm,
kind of how to talk about your emotions and things like that. Well, I
mhm.
think we had the opposite childhood.
Okay.
I had no idea how to talk about emotions, but I knew how to talk.
Yeah,
We do talk about things too, but not necessarily about that deep portion of where those emotions came from.
gotcha.
More of like a service, like don't know how to do this. Well, okay, you need to.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
was kind of the conversations with my dad and I. So I guess that kind of it just caught my attention. That's interesting to me because
yeah, yeah. And I
I
mean,
think
it's weird, man, because like I don't know, like everyone's just so different with that. But like I'm just thinking about like I had a very interesting childhood at a certain point because I at the time, I was living like in the hood in Virginia, in Richmond, Virginia. So all of my neighbors, all of my friends in the neighborhood are like, black. But I went to a private school, so like then I'm one of maybe 20, maybe not even 20. Like I'm probably being generous with that, but like a small drop in the bucket as far as like, other black people that went to the school. And so I had a very tough time with identity because
sure.
I felt like I don't know, I didn't really know like where to fit in because it
Yeah,
was like, like at going to a school like that, I was exposed to like different genres of music, like all these other different things. But if I were to go back to the hood talking about Alanis Morissette, they would have clowned me, bro. Like you know what I mean? So it's just like I learned on both sides to kind of like keep certain things
sure.
like, you know what I mean? And so I
Yeah,
mean, even
yeah,
in that
that's got to
way,
be tough. You're living two lives at once. I mean,
yeah,
as a child,
yeah,
for sure. I mean,
yeah,
that'd be,
yeah. So it
and
is
I can't imagine at school they really understood anything about probably what was going on. Now, I don't want to say around you in your own home, but in your community at home, in your
yeah,
neighborhood at
yeah,
home, I guess maybe is
yeah.
that the right way to put it?
Yeah, yeah, I think so, man. And the same actually went as far as music. I know I keep referring back to that, but like I don't know, music is just my thing. But
Hey,
like,
do it, brother, do it.
yeah,
We'll get. I want to
yeah,
get even more to it at the end. So, but if it's a theme all the way through and we're about music, that's fine. Don't
yeah,
even worry about it. There's
man.
worse things to talk about.
Yeah, like I can actually remember so my uncle, now we laugh about it. At the time I had no idea what was going on, but like my uncle sometimes would like pick me up and we would spend like, I spend like the weekend at his place or something like that. But we would talk about music, and a lot of the artists that I'm talking about, hence like Alanis Morissette, he just was like, What are you on? Like, what, like, you know what I mean? So he calls himself almost like, I don't know what to call it, but like he made like a cassette tape with like mad black songs on it, like
Okay.
uh, the
Yeah.
Jackson 5, Michael Jackson. So I
Right.
was obsessed with them at a certain point. But
Sure.
then going back to school, talking about the Jackson 5, like I got teased for that. But now looking back at it, it's like I got teased for liking Michael Jackson. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
That's
So it's
on
just,
that's on them, dude. That's on them.
yeah,
That's bad taste, and that's on them. That ain't the
it was weird, man. But it's all good because I feel like, all of those things, kind of like the sum of all of those things, just just kind of made me like how I am now. So it's all good.
yeah, for sure, for sure. That is fascinating though. I mean, about having to, because I feel like for me, and maybe for you in a similar manner, it almost feels like you've been probably in many ways living a double life from childhood all the way through. And I don't know if you feel like you still are now in some ways, or if you feel like who you are is finally blended into one. I mean, I feel like I'm so public with what I'm trying to do that I feel like I've finally reached the first time in my life since I was probably 8 where I
Yeah,
wasn't living two different worlds, one inside my brain, and it still happens, but not to the
yeah,
levels, you know.
yeah, yeah. It's
That makes sense.
definitely, like I said, like a excuse me, like a liberating feeling, man. So I think that's great. I think like now at this point, like, again, with just like you being like very public about things, it's made me more comfortable to just kind of just be me. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know, man. It's
That's all right. That's a good thing. Being you
yeah,
is a good thing. That's the best
yeah,
thing you can.
yeah,
When
facts,
those
man.
things will
It's
start
like,
paying off.
yeah, because trying to live as someone else can get to be very exhausting. Like, you know what I mean? So like I think this is definitely like a great place to be in when it comes to that.
I couldn't do it anymore, man. I just truly couldn't. I mean, the exhausting. I think that's one of the words I just pick all the time. I mean,
Mhm.
when I explain bipolar, if somebody asks me what is living with bipolar like, it's just exhausting.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just
That's
exhausting.
that's a
But
great adjective to use for it. Like it truly is. I was just having a conversation with my girlfriend earlier about it, and you know, how can I say this? Like we've kind of like had a little rough patch as it relates to, I guess, what support looks like, or like me sometimes feeling like she doesn't really like fully understand what I'm dealing with. So like having to explain like why, like, okay, we went to a like a party last night, and I've been
mhm,
in this more depressed side of things for like at least like a couple of weeks. So I was really like checked out. Like I didn't feel like playing the games. I didn't feel like doing any of that. And she took offense to it, and I can see how it made things awkward. But then like I also had to remind her like I literally, like, not figurative, but literally did not have it in me
yeah,
to sit around and laugh like everything was, because I wasn't feeling well. So
yeah.
yeah, exhausting is definitely a good term for that.
And that's
Like,
one of the hardest things I think I found to do, especially at the beginning, is just, and I mean, especially it's interesting the relationship, and especially at the beginning of my relationship with my girlfriend, is thankfully she is who she is. I mean, we wouldn't still be together now if she wasn't, because I mean, there were plenty of days where I'd just text her and be like, "Yeah, sorry, I can't do it. I can't
yeah,
hang out tonight. There's just no way I can," and or whatever. So
yeah. Shoot,
it's
without
the
without
hardest.
knowing y'all's relationship, like on the outside looking in, like I love how you talk about her. Like it seems like she's been like a very like important piece in like your recovery right now. And I think that's awesome, man, because like the opposite of that, like having people in your life that you kind of feel like are supposed to have your best interests at heart, are supposed to love you a certain way, and not getting that can be very upsetting. So like I think that's super cool that you have someone that really understands and like just adds to your recovery. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man, I'm just hoping, like I always say the same thing. I just hope I can convince her to like stay with me long enough to say yes, and then like
Right, right,
keep thinking it's a good idea. I'm just praying and hoping that I can keep her on that train for as long as possible because
right, right.
we haven't figured it out yet. So we'll just, but no,
Yeah.
it's beyond luck. I mean, it's just been incredible. I mean, I don't know how else to say it. I mean, she really got the train rolling on my recovery.
Mhm.
I mean, shortly before I met her, definitely haven't shared the story on anything like here before, but why not? So when I met her, I probably about 3 weeks before that had lost $1,000 at a little bar down the street from my house,
Okay.
drinking and gambling. Just
Mhm.
kept taking money out, putting money in, and it's
Yeah,
just one of the
yeah.
things that I used to do because it would get me out of my head for
Right.
2 hours. It was the one thing I could do, right? So about a few days after that, I brought my debit card to my dad, so I could no longer gamble, or at least it was going to be harder.
Yeah, yeah.
Looking back, I feel like that's really one of the first steps I've ever made to like taking accountability, taking
Mhm.
control of my own life and what I was going to do.
Mhm.
So I was selling cars at the time, literally
Gotcha.
sold her a car. And we just kept texting random, every once in a while, it was like once a day. I was super lonely, weird, not confident at all in myself. So I was like, asking people like, should I even text her? What the hell should I say? I don't know what I'm doing. Man,
Right.
it's
I was
fish.
like feeling like she was like out of your league almost like and
Anybody was out of my league. She was like, I mean, they say I'm kicking your coverage. I mean, I was playing in like the German football league and not the soccer one, if they even have one of those. You know what I
yeah.
mean? Trying to like get a
Mhm.
tryout here. I mean, yeah, it was not even on my radar to even think about this possibly happening.
Yeah.
And so, probably 2.5 weeks, or I mean, probably about a week after I met her, I went to the bar and I'm probably gambled like $50, but I blacked out, man. I lost my keys. I fell on the way home. I remember, found
Mhm.
my phone in a snowbank the next morning. And because we get a lot of snow up here, brother. So, I mean, it was like a 2 foot high snowbank, and the phone is
Yeah.
it, man. So I get through that, and I just remember thinking like that day, I was like, there is no effing way this girl is gonna stick around if I'm this kind of like shit show, for lack of a better word. And
Right.
it was one more piece, and so, but I really took it slowly. But where I was started, it was unbelievable that she stuck around because there were so many days at work where I was like, I can't do this. This day sucks. I'm so sorry, but like, I need to go home. I need to work out. Didn't tell her this, but I'm gonna have a couple drinks and then hopefully fall asleep for 6, 7 hours and get up and
Right.
not be angry in the morning.
Right.
And it used to take me all night long, if that, to get over these types of stressors and things.
Mhm. Mhm.
The fact that she even stuck around long enough to get to where she started being like, hey, have you found that? Here's an International Bipolar Foundation I found. Here's NAMI. Have you ever heard of them? Have you ever thought about going on Instagram? There's people with bipolar on there. I found this person and this person. And, she started sending me those. So it's like, I can't give her enough credit to really long and take up too much, but I can't give her enough credit for where I am today. So yeah,
Right.
man. I mean, it's so cool because I have also, like you said, I have had plenty of the other type of people in my life that don't do that, and I know how harmful and hurtful and limiting and crushing, soul crushing
Yeah.
at
Yeah.
times to not have that support. So I appreciate
Yeah.
you saying that. And she'll
Yeah.
watch. If she's that supportive, she'll actually watch this shit, and she'll hear you say that. She'll like you even more.
Yeah, yeah, no problem, man. No, I just feel like, I always say like sometimes I would say probably just any mental illness, but just speaking from our experience, like bipolar can be very like isolating because it's like it
Yes.
tricks us into feeling like nobody will understand like what I'm going through. And to a degree, if someone doesn't live with it, they'll probably understand to a certain extent. But to have somebody that just loves you in that way, man, can really be like life changing to me. So yeah, like definitely hats off to her. Like that's awesome, bro.
Exactly. Well said. Hats off to her. That's I'm gonna let you say it, leave it there. Leave it there. So but I what you said there, and I'm who cares? I'm gonna go off with my
Oh
plan.
yeah, no, that's all good, man.
I like talking to you, and I like where you go with things, and you just hit on something that I and I was actually listening to or another show that you had done previously too. This is Bipolar.
Oh
Um,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
earlier, and she's great. I'm like, all right, I better go listen to somebody who's done this, and you mentioned it there, and you just mentioned it now. The similarities of people that live with bipolar, it
Hmm.
still shocks me. I
Hmm.
still read things or come across things once a week where I'm like, man, that is exactly how it happens for me, or that is
Yeah.
exactly. I guess what are some of those things that you've read, or is there anything pops off that or you've read or you've seen somebody else be like, holy crap, that is, what are some of those things that, if you
Yeah.
could think of any?
Man, you know what's funny? This is just one that came to mind. Like I told a story I got like a whole lot more engagement on this particular post on TikTok. Like it was like hella people, but I was basically talking about how I quit a job when I was hypomanic and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna start a cleaning business. So then one person was like, oh, that's crazy. Like I tried to start a cleaning business. Then, like before I know it, bro, it was probably at least 15 to 20 people. Like I did the same exact thing. And I'm like, that's
Business.
that's wild. But I guess like at the core of that, like beyond the business part, the the impulsive decision making
Yeah.
when in a hypomanic or manic episode, the feeling of like embarrassment after it's over, like having to like save face and like kind of double back to like clean up the mess that was made, and that feeling of just of it's shameful, like or a shame going back to someone who saw you like in that state and having to return to them like, you know what,
The
I'm
apology.
sorry, the apology tour, bro. Like
The apology tour, man.
yeah, that's a huge one. And then
It's painful. It hurts so much too.
it
That's
does. It
that's
does,
the
man.
apology tour, because like as you know, it's not you.
Right.
It's not you, but it is.
Yeah.
So we know that. At least I do, and it sounds like you're saying the same thing. It's like, man, when you're on that apology tour, it's like it's such a like most of our life, this double-edged sword,
Yeah.
whatever the word you want to
Yeah.
use. It's like, but it wasn't me. But I remember I did it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think sometimes, even for me, I was gonna say for people, it's hard to like separate those. But even, with self, sometimes I feel like it's like once you do certain stuff for a certain amount of times, then it's like becomes, I feel like a little bit harder sometimes to be able to say, okay, like that was not me. That was like something I did, but that wasn't me. But like shoot, like I think another one, man, is like man, it's just like as it relates to depression, um, man, I think like beyond just like the lack of motivation, but whether it be like hygiene, like, people being like, oh, like, because I don't think I've ever really admitted that that's been a thing sometimes where it's like I just don't even feel like showering. But then, like, I just decided to talk about that recently, and like, mad
Saw
people
that
could relate. So it's like,
for
there's
sure.
a lot of things, man, that I feel like people can relate to. And it makes me happy that I'm making them feel less alone, but then it also like helps me in more ways than people can imagine because it
Yeah,
makes me feel less alone, and it makes me feel, like there's healing and like sharing something like that. And so many people, like I can admit, like I don't start to think like something's like weird with me about that. You know
right.
what I mean? So
That's where I was going. That's such a great observation. What you just said is not something weird about me.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
what I always love seeing is exactly. So I had never really thought of the hygiene thing before, other than like, I mean, this is absolutely disgusting, but back when I drank all the time, I wasn't very good at brushing my teeth because, I mean, shit, you drink
yeah.
to fall asleep and then you fall asleep and then whatever,
Right,
you know,
right.
and then half the time I'm still drunk, falling out the stairs trying to get to work at all, let alone on time the next. So, you know, but so when I think back to it, there was a lot more there than I realized, but even now, I was surprised actually when I was going through this most recent mixed episode after moving in.
Mhm.
All of a sudden, I was like, there was one time like, I don't think I've showered for 3 days. And that
Yeah,
is a huge red flag for me, bro.
yeah,
I'm the type of person that like, I'm gonna sweat through this because that's what happens when I talk about my bipolar still. And this is my first interview, and we're just meeting, and
yeah,
I wore
yeah.
the wrong color shirt, bro. But you know, it's like I'm gonna want to take a shower after this, and I just took one before I jumped on. You know, that's
Right.
the type of
That's
person I am. And so that's for me, it was such a red flag. And that's why I was like, again, thank you for doing what you're doing. When I saw that even you posted the other day, I was like, damn, man, you know,
yeah,
I feel you. I feel you because
yeah,
you're not alone at all. And that's just to keep hitting, like nailing home, I think why you and I are doing this is that's why we're doing it.
yeah,
It's
for sure, bro.
we're
Like,
not alone.
yeah, yeah. I just feel like once the more we realize that, and the thing about it is like I feel like we go through stages even with that because it's like, you know, you may post something, you get a good response from people, vice versa. And in that moment, you don't feel alone, but then something else may happen that you feel alone. So it's always just kind of coming back to that fact of like, we're literally not alone. Like I mean, I don't know the numbers, but like there's a lot of people with bipolar disorder. You know what I mean?
I believe it's about somewhere in the 35 to 40 million range in the US alone.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think, don't anybody quote me on that, but roughly, you know, somewhere in there. It might be higher. I'm not going to start questioning myself. It's in the millions. We're going to say
Yeah.
that. It's in
Yeah.
the millions, right? And that's just in the US. And I think you also too alluded to this. So I guess I'm just going to shut up. How many countries do you think you have people in your DM or people that you've actually created friendships with in your community about bipolar? How many countries that do you think you talk to
Man,
on Instagram?
um, let me see. Man, I would probably just say like a few,
Okay.
like, and that's the coolest part about another super cool part about what we do is like you literally have no idea how something that you make can literally travel like across the world. And times before, like in different times, that wouldn't have even been possible. Like we would literally have to go fly to France to deliver like the message that we have.
Yes.
Now it's like, yeah, man, like I'm just thinking of a few like right offhand, like a few, and it's very humbling. Like, you know what I mean? I never look at it like look at me, like, you know what I mean? But it's humbling because it's like it gets me out of myself even more because I'm like, okay, like the US is even a lot, but then when you think about like countries even outside of here that they may have totally different social norms or views on mental illness, but knowing that, people are literally all over the world with this, it's like, you know, we're I don't know, man. It's just touch.
Comforting.
Yeah, yeah,
Comforting.
definitely. Definitely.
And then I think for any of us living with a mental illness, but especially the severe ones. I mean, and you know, let's call it what it is. I mean, bipolar is a severe mental illness. You know, it is in there with you know the other ones that you could label as that. When anytime you have, and again, same with you. The numbers are the numbers, but I think it's what 15 to 20% die by suicide,
Yeah,
upwards of half
yeah,
attempt. That's a serious, serious illness. That's a serious
yeah,
mental illness.
yeah,
And so it's comfort of any kind is something that I've held on to my entire life.
Right.
of truly any kind. I mean, sometimes it's been alcohol, sometimes it's been
Yeah.
drugs, sometimes it's been sleeping on the floor. I don't know, but anything that is comforting is, and so now, like you said, for us to be able to have this community is it's humbling
Yeah.
because I guess, yeah, I don't know. I guess I just keep getting caught on that because then I think about all the conversations and we don't have time for that. But
Yeah. Nah, man, it's just it's great, man. It's and the thing about it is like I think I was saying this earlier, like not saying that I don't think well of myself, or you may be able to relate to this too, but it's kind of like, I don't get on there like I don't know, like I don't hold myself on any type of like pedestal or anything like that, but it's like,
well, it's hard to.
yeah,
Bipolar
yeah,
is gonna come and knock your ass right.
right, right. But it's
But
just
I'm
like,
sorry, continue.
nah, nah, it's just like it's a great feeling when something that maybe, you just kind of just posted and went on and forgot about, and then you just literally don't know how it affects people. That's like one of the biggest lessons I've learned from creating content. Like you literally have no idea who's watching you, because even people that don't engage with your content at all, like I've had people DM me like, "I love your content," and may have never like liked or comment or anything like that, but it just goes back to you just don't know. You don't know who is watching. So it's like creating with that in mind too is just like, I don't know, bro. Like I just value the work that we're doing like in that space in that way, because people need it, man. We need it, like, you know what I mean? But all
I
of
was
us
just gonna say we need to, man. This is good.
yeah,
It's just as, like you said this earlier. Maybe it was before we actually started recording, and maybe not. But it's just as much for us, and not in the way like you're saying. It ain't. It's not the likes, and it ain't the likes or the what the number of followers. And I even hate that. It's like, I no. It's the fact that, like I said earlier, it's like, man, I went to bed every night and woke up every morning thinking about taking my own life
yeah,
every single day. And the more I get ingrained in this, the more unbelievable it is that I'm getting to these points.
got
And
you.
so, in no way, like you said, is it like cockiness or overconfidence. It's like, it's almost a slap in the face of like, you made it here every single time. It's like, you're still alive. You're
Yeah,
making a
yeah,
difference. Like, it's like paying it back is the way I look, dude. I was such a drag on society for 15 years. I don't know how else to put it. I was a negative. I mean,
mhm,
there was certain people's lives at times and whatever. I mean, I was still going to work and whatever, but I feel like at least internally I was such a negative in at least in my realm and to the people I
understood.
love the most.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
so every time something good happens, I'm like, I just like sharing that with them
yeah,
because it's like, see,
yeah,
like look at like what we're doing now. It's never a me. It's always, that's why I laughed so hard when you said about my girlfriend. It's like, yeah, man, I got to give her like
all
Moses good. And I'll bring another name up right now because I know he'll watch this. He's been pushing me since the beginning. Dane, thanks for
mhm,
watching again. I appreciate it. You'll be one of the 10 that watch it right away. But it's those people that like they come with. I feel like, it's like all of this, it's only possible with them.
yeah, yeah,
Never would it. And so that's always something I want to remind people is like, yeah, you and I can make a video and post it. And I think both of us are pretty good about being honest and showing the negative side,
yeah,
but they don't see how much work goes into it, how much support goes into it, how much just to get up some of those days and make those videos. I mean, how hard is it to make a video when you're depressed, man? When you like, I need to share this out, but like, how much longer does it take you on those days than if you're stable or hypomanic?
man, like, I think once I get into it, it kinda just kicks into, like, the habit, so it's not as bad, but, like, actually deciding that I'm gonna do a video,
Yeah.
that takes, like, cause I might think about it for days and just be like, I just do not feel like no offense to anyone, but it's like I don't feel like basically like I would feel like posting it and literally just walking away from my phone. But it's like knowing that I try to like interact with people and stuff, it's like I don't feel like doing any of that. So I think like it takes the most just to be like, all right, let me just go out here and go to
Yeah,
this but wherever, like, and just hit record. Like that takes a while when I'm depressed. And then also I feel like I'm just not as sharp. Like, you know what I mean?
yeah,
Like
yes,
certain things that I would care like a lot about, like, okay, like this edit has to be perfect. Like, I'm just like, whatever. Like, y'all are gonna get what you get today.
record,
Cause
post, F it.
right, right,
Absolutely. Like sometimes you'll notice like really cool thumbnails or whatever. Well, that's a day that I probably had a little bit more energy and cared. Not care because it's always care. And but like you say, shit, just getting it. If it takes you 3 days to record a video, I'm not gonna try and take another 2 days to make the damn thumbnail that's supposed to go up.
right, right, right. Yeah,
I feel
man.
like, and I think that's so much more valuable. And I think that's why, at least I'll just speak for myself. That's why I felt like I connected with your feed and your information and your material right away because
Yeah,
it came from the heart and you were willing to put yourself, and you've used this word a lot and I love this word because I think the strength ultimately comes from this is vulnerability.
yeah,
You are willing to be vulnerable, and the value that that adds for other people is huge, like
yeah,
huge,
yeah.
man. So
I appreciate it. Likewise, man. It's I mean, shoot, I could go on forever talking about content creation, but I feel like it's a lot that comes with it, man. Because even with being vulnerable, like I can't tell you how many times over the last year I've thought to myself, like, I literally have more love and support from people that I've never met. Like, you know what I mean?
I do.
Than some people that maybe after hearing me talk about these things like over and over again, they just kind of like fall back. Like, sometimes it may be they don't know like what to say. Sometimes it may be like I'm tired of him always talking about this, but it's
Yep.
interesting.
I don't
Like,
mean to laugh at that part, but I know my family and my girlfriend at times get tired of me hearing about the same damn thing.
yeah,
So
yeah,
it isn't. It's another outlet, and it goes back to the same thing. It's people like you who understand you. My
yeah,
girlfriend's amazing. Thank God for her, and I'm not jealous, but I'm happy for her. Thank God for her. She doesn't live with bipolar.
yeah, yeah.
There are certain things even she isn't going to be able to completely understand,
Right.
and somebody probably somewhere on this planet can. And thank God in 2023, blowing my damn mind, we can talk to them.
Yeah, yeah,
We can interact, we can hear their stories and do that. I mean, and that's, I don't know, I just think just with we've come so far. And but at the same time, I think it's really important to show or to talk about how much further we need to go. And
yeah,
that's why, I always keep reverting back to men talking about mental illness, and it's so important for everybody. So I'm not trying to make, but I do think it's so important just because of the way so many of us are raised to be tough. And
right.
when in reality, the only way that you and I, that's at least two of us,
Yeah.
have gathered our strength is through being vulnerable.
I
And
agree.
that's the message I'm always trying to send, and I know you are, is our goal to eliminate the strength or the stigma. So
Yeah.
I wanted to talk about exercise, but hey, we've already been going for about 40 minutes,
No,
and
that's all.
so maybe let's do it quickly, because then I want to finish with hip hop and rap and music, and not just that. I don't mean to, but I know that that's kind of near and dear to both of our hearts. But I did want to hit exercise because I do feel like it has been the one thing that I go back to all the time that gives me a chance, a hope of keeping stability. And whether it's, and I know you and I just were I want to say texting, but whatever, DMing on Instagram the other day about it. It's like, dude, some days that exercise is a 4 block walk.
Yeah.
It feels like I ran 4 miles, and I might have the day before and felt just fine doing that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But how do you manage? Because I think just seeing kind of your words about it, and
Mhm.
underneath and on your stories with exercising, it seems like you have such an inner dialogue like myself about like, damn, I hate this shit. Why the hell am I doing this? This is the
Yeah,
last thing I want to do today. Is man, you gotta be kidding me. And then all of a sudden it's like, ooh, 45 minutes on the treadmill, 25 minutes on here. Oh, 20 minutes later, you see him rocking the abs, man. And it's like, oh,
yeah,
okay. All right. So he clicked through the motivation and it flipped to the other side. So
bro,
what does it do for you? How do you get that? How do you motivate yourself every day? Because I think I see a lot of people who struggle with that living with bipolar. It is hard. So how do you go about it, man? Talk about it.
and like just long story short, bro, like literally for years, like I would not exercise. Like I had a doctor tell me as early as like 2007, like, you need to be exercising, like it would benefit you a lot. And I'm just like, I hear you, but I really hate exercising. Like I just
I was
don't.
280 drinking and eating everything. So
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
I
You get
feel it.
that.
And that was 2000. That was 2008. I'll
Okay.
shut up
Okay.
again. But I had a colonoscopy in like 2010, bro. That's how unhealthy and I was.
I
So
got
I get
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Go
Like I hated
continue.
it, man. So like, I would go through phases where like, me and one of my homeboys might go to the gym, meet him there, exercise once, but then don't exercise again for like another 3 or 4 months or something. So I never had been consistent with it, but when I started kind of, I would say like my sobriety journey, that's when I was like, between that and side effects from like Seroquel specifically for me with weight gain, and like all the weight was just going to my stomach. And I have a family history of diabetes. And even before I started taking Seroquel, I was told like you're kind of like teetering the line of being pre-diabetic. And I know now about Seroquel that that's one of the like psychotropic drugs that can lead to diabetes. So I was like, I
Oh
gotta do something, you know what I mean? Like
yeah.
I just hate the stomach. And it sounds like vain, but it's just like
No,
I didn't like it. Like, you know what I mean? And so I was just like, I'm about to just go
I don't
like,
think it's vain at all. I don't want to interrupt, but it's not vain at all because in my mind, because it all goes to your self-image and your strength and how you feel,
right.
right? I
You're
mean,
right.
and so I think that's a valuable thing for you to share,
Yeah.
actually. So I
Yeah.
think those feelings are natural. Don't, I think that's a good thing to share because now it can get unhealthy. So I don't want to like, obviously, I'm not saying that I'm not trying to be that guy, but
Yeah.
it does matter. I mean, when I take a week off from going to the gym and I'm like, oh, it goes with how I feel. And I think our body and our brains need to be so in tune with one another for us to be successful on any given day.
Mm.
So I'm
I,
sorry. I just wanted to say that
no, I
because
appreciate that, man. Like, but yeah, so basically, like I just started, it was just like, I'm gonna just go Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And this is coming off of me smoking like mad blunts, bro, like backwoods, fronto leaves. So my lungs were shot.
bro, I
Like,
mean, I give myself credit for going back a while, but like, the backwoods hurt.
yeah, bro, like
Those
I
hurt.
remember the first time I got on the treadmill, I think like I was only able to do like 10
Yeah.
minutes of like jogging, and I felt every blunt I smoked over the years. So like the mindset that I started like getting into, man, was just like try to add just like a little bit more every time. And I've had a habit in life, like just period, to run away from discomfort. So I'm very socially awkward sometimes. So I don't like putting myself out in like networking events and stuff. There's so many things that I've run away from because they're uncomfortable. And for whatever reason, when I started working out, I was like, I didn't just relate it to my physical, but I also related it to like just learning how to work through discomfort. So, I
Yeah.
would just set like goals, like little smaller goals every time I went back. And then I was like, wow, like I really can do this. And what really got me, man, is like when I actually would feel great. Like I would feel great leaving the gym. I would sleep better at night. Like so many things that
Yes.
came from me where I was like, wait a minute, like this is what consistently exercising feels
Yep.
like. Like I didn't know that before.
Yep. Yep.
You know what I mean? So it's
I
like,
do know.
yeah, it's like a love-hate relationship though, bro, because it's like sometimes like that's literally the last thing I feel like doing. And so my goal is really more so
Do it.
just get to the
Do it.
gym and
Yep.
kind of go whichever way from that. But to be honest, like that's something I've definitely slacked off for like for the last couple of weeks or so. But I'm gonna get back in there. But yeah, bro, it's like I've just felt a lot better. You know what I mean? Like
I'll
doing
be a
that.
reminder today then, man. That's right. That's why we were meeting up
Yeah.
with today, man. Get back in there. That's all right. Get
Right.
back in there.
Yeah.
Who cares? 10 minutes, 20 minutes, who cares? But whatever. Just go, or I
Yeah.
gotta believe it's warmer than crap out there. I feel like probably if you go for a 7 minute walk, it's probably like a 20-minute run anywhere else. So, I mean,
Yeah, man. I was actually out with a friend today. He's a videographer, so I go to like a lot of his video shoots just because I just like being in like that environment stuff. Bro, there was a scene in the video, it's like a rooftop shot. Bro, it was so hot. Like the sun just seemed like I can't even open my eyes but so wide because it's so bright up there and like man, I was sweating like crazy. So yeah, bro, like yeah, that 7 minute walk would be crazy, actually.
I think
Yeah,
you're all right. I think you're good for the day then. All right, man.
yeah,
Maybe
yeah.
just stay in some
Maybe
air conditioning.
tomorrow,
Yeah,
man.
I was gonna say stay in some air conditioning tonight. Hydrate, hydrate, hydrate.
Yeah,
Start out tomorrow morning right, and then maybe But I think you're right. I think you're right. Take it easy
yeah,
tonight.
yeah,
Hydrate. I don't want anything bad happening. Don't listen to
yeah,
me.
man.
Bad idea.
Yeah, yeah,
So I'm gonna use this then to get to where we want to both end, which is music. What
okay.
is your favorite? What is your playlist, or what's your top 5 songs when you're working out? What give me the hits or groups or whatever.
You know what's crazy is like I haven't even been working out to music. Like I've
Really?
been working out. I think sometimes at Planet Fitness, like they have it so you can, plug your headphones in to listen to like certain stuff. But I've kind of more
Hmm.
been looking at TV, like,
What?
but I can't hear it. Like, it's closed captions. So something
Hey,
about
hey, that's impressive, bro. If you could read while you're running, I
yeah,
more
it's
power to you.
distracting, man, because it's
Yeah,
like
yeah,
once
yeah.
you
No, I get
start reading closed captions for like a good like 10 or 15 minutes, like I'll look up and be like, damn, like I've been on here for 30 minutes, but I'm so into like, but
No, I'm playing with you. I used to do that too when I started working out again. Now I try and do outside, and I was lucky enough a couple of years ago, or however you want to put it, and I was doing solo videos that I did, and or
uh,
pretty much any and all of them. You see me like lean forward and press on it. Well, that's because I couldn't figure out how to get my screen to stop like dimming and turning off.
mm,
And
yeah,
then you'd hear
yeah,
notifications. Like every time I got an email, you'd hear it. I think I just figured that out the other day. So don't worry. And I've had it a year now. I got this a year ago.
yeah, yeah.
But I mean, I think, anyway, so that's crazy. I don't know how you do that. I give you a ton of credit because I need music in my ears pretty much all the time when I'm running. I just graduated this year, and I say graduated because I feel like it's a huge accomplishment for me. I've been running to podcasts, and
Mhm,
so I'm like, wow, that's like my own inner motivation. Just listening to words. That's so. I'm a
mhm,
music guy. I've always been a music guy. I'm majority hip hop when I'm running. I love it. So I grew up listening to. My dad had us mostly listening to classic rock, right?
okay,
That's what I grew up listening to. And I don't know how I got into. I think it was cross country, which I ran for 1 year, and I
okay.
terrible. I mean, literally finished. I mean, we would have however many teams are at like a conference event, and I was
Mhm,
third to last, bro. Like
okay.
when I say terrible, they don't get much worse, right? But but what I do remember is this was 2000. They
Mhm.
introduced me to the Chronic.
Oh man, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, so smoke weed every day. I mean, we listened to that last part over and over, whatever. So, but it was that, and then of course you get in. For me, I got into Eminem and Snoop. The kind of that natural progression in the
right.
2000s. Well, that still probably mostly who I listen to now. There's a, but I remember my dad getting so mad at me because you got to remember, white boy, tiny, the small town in Wisconsin.
Gotcha.
Um, I had, I just because it was Eminem, of course. I mean,
Yeah.
I still love the guy. I mean, I finally felt validated by that when I was watching the what was it, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Dre
Yeah.
was introducing Eminem, and Dre called him the best rapper of all time. And I was like, whether or not that's true, I don't care. But you validated my love for him, and I no longer have to feel like it's just because I'm a white dude and he's white.
Right.
I feel, I
Nah,
felt better
he's
about that.
nice, bro. Like
Yeah.
race aside, like he's sick, man. Like,
No, and that's how I always felt too. I'm mostly joking, but my dad got so mad, right?
mhm.
So mad. And I remember one day I go, Dad, they swear more, but do you realize they're talking about the same shit the guys at Classic Rock were talking about? Women
Mhm.
and drugs and going out. And now some of it got a little bit more violent. I remember Ja Rule's album opened with some gunshots and sounded like helicopters. And he's like,
Yeah,
"What the hell are you
yeah,
listening to?" So there was some differences, but like over time, he understood that it was what it was for me, was a connection.
yeah,
It was just a deep connection. And one of the reasons I liked Eminem is the aforementioned terrible relationship with my mother for a long time is I didn't understand why cleaning out my closet was so
yeah, yeah.
uproarious right then, because it was something I connected with. But to
Right.
bring it full circle, then 15 years later, he came out with Headlights, and I connected with that because that was kind of his coming to Jesus moment and forgiveness moment. So, talk to me about, because you took it so many steps further and steps that I'm jealous of. I've always would have loved to have figured out how to play around. I bought the MacBook Air with all of the music stuff on it just so I can play around with it, not knowing what I'm doing at all, just because I enjoy
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
You've taken it so much further. Where did that start? Where did your how did your love of music start? Where was the spawn of that, I guess?
yeah. I think my love of music as like a consumer, just like as somebody just listening to music started very young. Like my grandfather, like my mom's father, played trumpet in a jazz band. My mom played percussion in like a band, and so like music has kind of always been like in the family in that way. And my mom used to have like congos and maracas and like all this stuff like at home. So like me and my friends sometimes would just like jam, like just
Yeah,
what I mean, playing all that stuff. But I think like my early exposure to different types of music, like really opened my mind to connecting with like so many different types of music. So like, my mom would play like Bob Marley, my mom would play Sade, my mom would play, Carlos Santana, like
yeah,
so many
yeah,
different like types. But early on, I could never really explain it until I actually started making music, but I would get the feeling, like I could understand like whatever feeling, at least that I would imagine the artist is trying to convey. Like that's something I just experienced hearing music differently. Like it wasn't just like this is a good song, but it's like this made me feel like a certain way from the style of production, from the way the vocals are mixed, like all these different things that just made me feel a certain way with music. And so um I say about seventh grade or eighth grade, I had a friend who he had the CD version of this, but it was basically Tupac's book. It was a poetry book called The Rose That Grew from Concrete. And up until that point, I had known Tupac, like I was still pretty young, but what I knew about him was a totally different side than what I saw in this poetry book because I was like, wow, like he's very vulnerable and showing like emotion and things like that. And so this particular friend also wrote poetry as well. And I was just like, yo, like this just seems like something cool to do. Like, you know what I mean? I've literally never thought about that, but I was just like, shoot, I want to try it. So
that's
I
cool.
think I got like a folder with like mad, just like loose leaf in it and just started writing poetry. It's probably like terrible looking back on it, but I had to start somewhere. But basically what happened is like the end of eighth grade, I got the bug, like, like I want to start rapping and actually write into like beats and stuff like that. And so I think one thing that really helped foster that was my mom was very supportive. Like,
Really?
yeah, like when I say supportive, I mean like ninth grade, me and my cousin had like a little group where like we wanted to go record a demo, and my mom took us to a local studio that was owned by like a DJ in Richmond. I'm even thinking like paid for it because like in ninth grade, like I doubt we would be able to afford
Yeah.
studio.
I couldn't have. Shit.
Right, like, so we recorded like 6 songs that day and put it on a CD. My mom would listen to it, stuff like that. And then,
Amazing.
long story short, like going through high school, my best friend from back home has a cousin who, ironically, his name is Brandon also, but he recorded himself at home. And I think this was a little bit before this whole age of like, you don't need big studios. You don't need a
Right,
record. Like,
right,
this is at the
right.
height of like, everybody thinking like going to a big studio is like how you got to do it. But I
The only
never,
one. Yeah.
yeah, like I never knew anyone recording themselves. And the fact that he was like around my age, maybe like a year older, was just like impressive to me. So, like, for Christmas, my 11th grade year, bro, like my mom got me a microphone, she got me a mixer, she got me headphones. And bro, like I literally did what I saw the other Brandon do. Like I cleared out my
But yeah.
closet, blankets in there, and I just started recording mixtapes, like over just whatever beats. And it was so pure. Like it was no like, oh, I gotta make this for a certain audience. It was just literally like a love of being able to take these emotions that I'm feeling and put them into songs where I feel most free, like to talk about anything. And so as the years went on, like, college came, I didn't really do music, but getting out of college, got back into it, moving down here to Atlanta, like I had people, to notice my talent and say like, man, we want to take you out like on the scene. And so, bro, like I was nailing these talent competitions, like Apollo style competitions. There's like a place down here in Atlanta called Apache Cafe that's like a
Okay.
legend. Like,
Yeah.
it's different now because they're under like new ownership and they moved, but that's a venue down here that's known for like you better be like on your A game getting on this stage because people will boo you type of thing. And so like I just had a chance to perform, and like the adrenaline and the high I got from that was just like from there it just was kind of just like just on. But you know, obviously in the context of us talking about bipolar, I feel like I've had a lot of challenges with consistency with music
Yeah.
because I go through phases where I'm like all in, and then I go through some phases where it's like all out. So that kind of just brings it to now where I'm just trying to get back into it, trying to get back into just creating, like not with any type of like pressure or anything in mind, but just literally getting back to that childlike, like I don't want to say innocence, but
For
like
sure. Get
yeah,
back to you. Get back to
yeah,
B Russ, flowing, spitting, man. Well, I feel like, and who knows, right? I don't, but I feel like if you get back to that, at least if you make it fun again,
mm,
because that's kind of what I'm hearing is like, you want it to be fun again.
yeah,
You want it to be a hobby again, a passion again, and
yeah,
sometimes it takes a little bit of time away, man, and a little fresh perspective. But like,
yeah.
I don't know. Take it from this guy, man. I love listening to How Picky as Hell. I loved it, man. You had that. You
I
definitely had a
appreciate
little
it.
Atlanta, like you know. People, I was like, all right, I could, I could. It's good, man. Get back into it. Come on, man.
Yeah. I think what ended up happening at a certain point, man, is like when this kind of like streaming era became like the new thing, and basically being told and on social media about artists that like you have to consistently put out music. Like years ago, an artist could put out an album this year and may not drop another album for like 2 or 3 years, but now to hear if you're not putting out a song every month, like you're losing type of thing. And I think that changed like me in a not so good way because it was always this pressure with creating until it just felt like creating is like a chore now. It's not even like
Yep.
fun. It's more like,
Yep.
oh, I have to do this, you know. But
Yep.
like you said, just getting back to just how I felt like with that mic in my closet and literally just making just music to make it. I feel like I'm trying to get back to that point. You know what I mean?
And that's I think that's a hard thing living with bipolar too, is I mean, and I fall prey to it just with the Instagram, which is just that. It's just Instagram, but even I fall prey to it. It's like, oh, I should be posting. It's like, no, because every time I try and post one more the next day because I feel like I'm supposed to or something, it sucks. It never
Yeah,
gets many views.
like
It
a
never does very
pause.
well,
Yeah,
you know?
it's more of
And
a. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no, no, you.
No, like it just something came to mind. I had a conversation with my brother one time, like my younger brother, and we were just texting, or maybe we were on the phone. I can't remember, but we were like communicating. And I was basically explaining to him this pressure of creating music, and I definitely relate to you and feeling like that with content as well. But in the context of music, he was like, "Do you really wanna do this?" Because like, it sounded like you feel like it's a instead of something you love, like, you if it sounds like it's more like a I can't remember the word he used, but kinda like
Yeah.
you're not really doing this because you love it, but you're doing it because you feel obligated to, like, you know what I mean? And ever since he asked that, that's just a question I've, like, had to sit with, and I don't know, man. Like that's really my dream. Like before content creation, it was music. So like I have certain goals now. Like I want to like produce like a short EP. I want to try to find some way to connect the mental health content to the music, like speak more about my mental health in my music and things like that. But yeah, bro, like having to force yourself to do any type of art, like, you know what I mean? Creation is
Well,
just
I think that's a myth though. Because in some ways, and so I'm gonna just take a little devil's advocate to your brother.
yeah,
No offense, and
so
and you
no,
could you
so
can you could have him take it out on me later. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with it. But I don't disagree with him. I think that that's a great point. I think a lot of people are just looking out for us and our well being. It's like, well, why are you wasting all this time if you don't truly love it? You gotta love it if you're gonna do it. But who was it? Is Truman Capote, one of the major writers I remember reading about? He would sit at his desk for 8 to 12, 8 to 1, 8 to 5, whatever it was that day.
mhm,
And he would consider it a success if he did that, even if he didn't write a word.
yeah,
Because not
yeah,
every day you're going to be successful. Not every day you're going to be able to write a new song. Not
mhm,
every day, especially living with bipolar. And I'm sorry, but like people, uh, ye- what am I trying to say? Man, what am I trying to say? I'm trying to say that you're gonna win out through. You're gonna come through. Your generosity or of your soul. You know what I mean? Of like sharing who you are. That will come through in the end, and that's what's gonna grab people because the world we're living in now, people are going to have to start understanding that you can't just be on 24/7. It's
yeah,
it, and if they don't, the way I look at it, man, is I got nothing to lose.
yeah, yeah.
I really don't, man. I'm gonna be bartending and serving, man. I just applied for like 12 more jobs, man. And I was like, this time I'm gonna put on that I started my own website and that I write for the National Bipolar Foundation and then I've
Yeah,
done this and that. Bro, I
right.
can't get a call back if I do that. I can't get a call back if I don't put that on there. It doesn't matter. If I pretend
It's
I
like
don't
you might as
have bipolar,
well.
huh?
So you might as well
Yeah, so
just
it's like, fuck it, man. I might as well. Let's roll. Let's do this. And if I can't do it one day, hopefully I can do it the next, man. But I think that people are going to have to come through, because people want to see other people. And you're one of the most real people I've met. I know that you're capable of putting that realness onto the page and eventually I've heard the beats that you've been working on. I've heard that part. You got the producing part back, you got the ear back. I know
yeah,
that.
yeah.
I know that. So, the words will come. You'll figure that out. But man, we're gonna have to do this again. Okay,
Oh,
because
definitely.
we're gonna have to do this
Actually,
again.
I'm kind of speaking on this prematurely, but like
Speak on it.
I've kind of been just thinking, man, like I'm always thinking about how can I like just provide more like value or just help people more. And I know how good it's felt for me to be able to have these talks with different people and share my story. Like I'm really thinking about starting something like maybe going live like once a week, but literally going live with anybody, bro, that is willing to share their story about
Hey,
bipolar. Like, it literally does not matter. You could have one follower and I'll talk to you about it because I just want to give people a chance to magnify like, their experience with it. And,
yes,
you
yes.
know, so in saying that, like, yeah, we do have to talk some more, but I just want to
Yeah.
give you a heads up if I hit you like, yo, bro, like, are
Hey,
you willing to line?
you
Uh,
already know. You
yeah,
already know. Don't even don't be, do me a favor. Don't put it in the form of a question. Just if you're gonna put it in a question, say what day, mother. You know what I mean? No,
right,
you're
right,
not gonna
right.
ask if. Just
Yeah,
ask
yeah,
which day am I available? Because the answer is
right.
gonna be yes,
Yeah,
no
bro.
matter what, man. Because absolutely, and I mean, we'll see where this goes, but it's certainly something where I don't want to speak premature, where I shouldn't either. But if I can't find somebody else, you're going to be the call,
Hey, bro,
you
like
know.
I'm always down to talk, man.
And
It's
we'll
just
pick a topic and we'll roll because I think it's good to have. Again, my first one was with my girlfriend, and she's smarter than me, and she's got her master's, and she, like I said, and basically learning how to live with me the rest of her life if she chooses to in
right.
social work. So
Yeah,
she's smarter on that aspect. And I'm hoping to actually have, because I had to move, I had to get a new psychiatrist. Still
yeah.
working on that, which I can't even
Oh,
think about yet, or I'll lose my damn mind on video here. But I'm gonna have her on at some point. So I'm lining up, so, so hopefully some cool ones. But in all honesty, man, I think what you bring to the table is super valuable. You see things in a different light, um in many ways, I think, than I do. And obviously, I mean, we're different people, but a lot of similarities too. And so I think we work well off each other. I'd love, maybe
yeah,
we'll make a regular thing out of it. All right, one more question though, because I have to ask you this.
okay.
Super serious. What are your favorite five favorite artists, man? Or give me five to listen to the next time before I come on. And if they're people I already know, great, but I have a feeling they're gonna be different, maybe, than mine.
Um, oh man, like Nas is one of my favorite artists, but I say like his newer music has been good since he teamed up with Hit Boy. So like so to put in perspective, like Nas has been out since like '94, never won a Grammy until like the last like couple of years, and it had to do
Which is
with
crazy. Which
new
is
production.
crazy,
Yeah,
first
it
of
is crazy, but definitely Nas, and specifically, I would say maybe like the Lost Tapes. Like that's I feel like an album people don't really talk about because it's like basically like throwaway songs between I think it was written in I am or something like that. But that album, bro, like literally
all. Okay.
made me love rap. Like
Okay.
it's so good.
Okay. Sure.
So I would say that. Man, of course, like the other folks too, like Jay-Z. Man, oh man, this is like always
It's all
hard.
right. It's all right. I put you on the spot. That's a tough one.
No, no, no. So Nas, Jay-Z, one artist that had a big impact on my like consciousness as it relates to like society and speaking on like things going on with that is Immortal Technique. Um, I don't really know if he's still making music, bro, but like he's a very like revolutionary rapper. I believe he's Puerto Rican, but he's like from Harlem. So like he speaks a lot about just keeping it raw about like society's ills, you
Right.
know what I mean? So he inspired me to have that side of me where I can, open up and talk about that type of stuff. Um Man,
Any Run the Jewels and
Oh,
Killer Mike being local down there?
you know what? Actually, yeah. So Killer Mike, I haven't heard the whole new album, but I've heard some of it, and it's really good, man. I've always liked Killer Mike, before I even really knew who he was, but even like him on, um, I ain't never scared like that Killer Mike,
Yeah.
the whole world by Outkast. Like I was like always like, oh
Oh
yeah, he,
yeah,
you
yeah,
know.
yeah.
But yeah, and I actually LP, like I was familiar with him in high school because I went through this little like strictly like underground phase where I was listening to a lot of people on the label that he was on and stuff like that. So yeah, they're definitely dope. I have one more that I can think of, Big L.
Big
So
L. Okay.
Big L, super dope, very good lyricist. He's from Harlem, New York also, but unfortunately he got killed. Like I'm tired of talking about this in rap culture, but
Yeah.
before he got killed, he was going to sign to Rockefeller Records, and this is at the height of like their dynasty. So like it's always me thinking about what could have been if he signed to them, because like Jay-Z was definitely Rockefeller's like flagship artist, but I truly believe that if Big L would have signed to Rockefeller, like he would have outshined Jay-Z, and it's unfortunate he didn't have the time to. But yeah, bro, like go back and listen to, it's an album called Lifestyles of the, I want to say like Rich and Dangerous or either Poor and
Yeah.
Dangerous.
Sounds right.
Yeah, he has an album called The Big Picture that I really like too. I think that's really his only two
Okay.
albums, but
So Big
from a,
L, the
yeah.
Immaculate. What was the last one you said?
Um
Puerto
uh
Rican from
oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Immortal Technique. I'll send you all of these too when we
Immortal
get off.
Technique. No, I know, but I just want to put them out. Yeah, and then
Yeah,
then
yeah,
I'll put
Immortal
them in there. But
Technique.
Immortal Technique.
Nah.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, bro. Like those are the
Sounds
ones I'm thinking about right now. But yeah, definitely those are just some solid albums to me. And they're just near to my heart because I literally can remember like where I was and hearing these songs and like how I used to ride around with my friends in Richmond listening to this stuff, and I could not wait to get home to try to write something like I just heard. So it's like, yeah, bro, those are like some of my favorite like albums.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. That's what matters. That's what we hold on to. What'd you say?
So what about you?
Oh man, I always go back to Eminem. Like I said, it was just somebody that I could. I mean, angry white boy. I could relate. I mean, and I was angry at my mom. I was angry at my family. I was angry at people around me. And but I think I could relate to him feeling unrelatable. I
Yeah.
mean, from a young age, I didn't really relate to pretty much anybody around me. And when I went down to Madison and went to school, I hung out with most of the people who didn't look like me because those were the people who accepted me.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I just never really fit in, and I felt like he one of the few people who don't fit in. Seems like with any group. Um,
Yeah. That's a
and
fact. Yeah.
huh?
I said that's a fact. Yeah, I agree with
Yeah.
that.
So him, and then man, over the last handful of years, I've really gotten into, I'm not gonna lie, Chance the Rapper.
Okay.
Saw him
So,
live, but really Run the Jewels. I mean, if you had to ask me if I had to go see one concert every year, it would be them. I saw their one of their first shows they ever did. It was when they right after they came out with Run the Jewels, Run the Jewels.
right.
And it was in Madison. There were probably like 150 people there. I
Mm,
worked 21 straight doubles. I'm not kidding. I worked two jobs for 21 straight days, and my reward was this night. And
that's
I
it.
was looking forward to it. I showed up. They did 30 minutes of LP, 30 minutes of Killer Mike, then the 30 minute or 45 minutes of Running the Jewels, and then they hung out afterwards. And I met Killer Mike, and I don't know if I actually did shed a tear, but I know I was holding one back because like this MFer just gave me the biggest hug ever, and I was like, I'm not gonna lie, dude. I was waking up at 6 o'clock in the morning at that time of my life,
Mm,
getting on the bus. Hour and a half later, I'd show up to work until 2, get on a bus for an hour after that, go to my second job and get home at 9 o'clock, get
yeah.
hammered until 3, sleep for 3 hours and do it again.
Wow,
I
man.
listened to that album on repeat that whole summer and especially those 21 days. And
Got you.
I mean it when I said that kept me alive. I mean,
Got
that's why I wanted to talk to you about music because, like, I feel like music has kept me alive in a lot of moments in my
you.
lifetime.
Yeah. Yeah. I
And
feel,
I
yeah.
basically got the opportunity to tell him that, you know what I mean? And he just, his generosity of in that moment of looking at me and being like, thank you for telling me that. This
Yeah.
is why we make that music. And man, he gave me a hug I'll never forget, because again, he made me feel comfortable. He made me feel understood. And so like I will run the jewels for the rest of my life. You know
Right.
what I mean? Killer Mike for the rest of my life. Like, I don't care, man. He'll put out anything on there. But even more on top of that, I remember after Ferguson, and I don't know if you haven't seen this, check this out. Um, they came out, and I mean, I just remember crying watching, LP came out first and said a couple of things, and it was great. But when Killer Mike came out, and I don't want to do it injustice, so I'm not even going to try. But everybody should just go Google Killer Mike and LP or Run the Jewels and after Ferguson.
Okay.
His words, I already knew he was that type of person because I had met him previously for 2 seconds, and you knew he's so genuine, and you know that those feelings come through in his music.
Yeah.
If you slow down and listen to the words that they're talking about in the music, you know he means every damn thing behind it. He has so much emotion behind it, and he's done so much for his communities. And that's just one. I think so. I don't know. You would have to tell me if that's true. From the outside, it looks like he's done a lot for the
Nah,
community.
he has, man. Like he's well respected here, and not just in the music sphere, but even like politics. So he has like a barbershop on. It's like a popular strip here called Edgewood, which is like around the corner from like where Martin Luther King Jr. grew up. It's like in the fourth ward. But he had a barbershop here, and like he had Bernie Sanders in the barbershop. So I mean, like he yeah, he's
Yeah.
done a lot for the community. His perspective on Atlanta is like, yeah, like listening to him talk really about anything, man. Like he's
Anything.
just so wise and so, just like you said, just genuine and real. So like, yeah, like he's definitely well respected here, and does a lot. Like, yeah.
So, man, I could go on all night, but we got to stop somewhere, brother. We got to stop somewhere. Thank you so much. Is there anything else you want to plug? I mean, Instagram
Oh
again,
man.
YouTube, Apple Music, Spotify, at the Real B Russ, at all of them. Am I
Yeah.
missing anything, brother?
Yeah. Nah, just the real B Russ on social media, and then just B Russ on, like Spotify and Apple Music and stuff. And then just, man, like I thank you for wanting to talk to me, and giving me this opportunity, like to dialogue about a lot of this stuff. And like, I say this a lot, but I like really mean it. Like I believe in us. Like, and when I say us, like our community, as much as we talk about what we struggle with and hopelessness and depression and all these things, like it's definitely not like toxic positivity, but it's like I just believe that we can do it. Like, you know what I mean? Like I believe in us, like that we can do some of the things that we want to do as much as we struggle. Like I just really care about us, man. Like I just want to make it a point to like express that to anybody that struggles with this or any mental illness. I just keep pushing. Like I'm not saying it's gonna be easy, but just keep pushing. Like I really genuinely believe in us, man. So that's about it. I think
Thank you,
that's
man. I love that. No, truly, I love that message. It's because it is. We got to keep pushing together.
yeah, yeah,
And I don't think it's not, hey, somebody's got to be positive.
yeah,
Man, some of us got to be positive. Some of us got to move this forward. And that doesn't mean we're going to be every day.
yeah,
You and I both know the next time you come on, let's say it's in 3 weeks from now, we could talk about depression. We could have both been pissed off for the last week, and we might just rage on the world, right? That could happen.
yeah,
But but if not for the goal of getting through this together, of making resources more available, of showing that people that if a positive outcome isn't in reach,
yeah,
I'd have damn done off with myself a long time ago.
yeah,
I tell people, I've had people ask me why I laugh so much at my own stories. They're like, how are you laughing at that? That sounds like it's traumatic and horrifying. It's like, yeah, it is.
yeah.
But if I don't laugh, I will cry every minute the rest of my life, because
Yeah,
I'm not going to forget about these things anytime soon. I did
right.
it. They're not going anywhere.
Yeah,
So if
yeah,
I lose my ability to laugh, or what you said, our ability to look forward and have hope, then
Mhm.
you and I wouldn't have showed up for this tonight.
True.
We
True.
wouldn't have.
Yeah.
We because, and that's the thing, and so we'll end there, man. We have to have hope.
Yeah.
That's why we're both doing this. It's not always pretty. The hope doesn't always come easily, and we can't always bring it on our own. But I guess that's why I want to thank you for coming on, because I think your message, just who you are as a person, and where you've come, and that smile and that like just genuine you behind it comes
Mm.
through, and that's enough is going to give people hope. I hope what we did together gives people hope. So we'll
Yeah,
keep
bro.
doing it, man. Thank
Yeah.
you. I appreciate you. I'm gonna let you
Yeah.
enjoy the hell out of your night, man, and we'll talk soon.
Yeah, we'll definitely talk, man.
Talk soon. Thanks, man.